Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another live Urantia book reading. Today, all about secular totalitarianism. Today, it will be a short book reading because this chapter is a short chapter. So, let us dive into this topic and let's see what the Urantia book is saying to us. All right, I share screen so that you all can listen and read along with me. Uh-oh. All right, secular totalitarianism. Let's go. But even after materialism and mechanism have been more or less vanquished, the devastating influence of 20th century secularism will still blight the spiritual experience of millions of unsuspecting souls. Modern secularism has been fostered by two worldwide influences. The father of secularism was the narrow-minded and godless attitude of 19th and 20th century so-called science, atheistic science. So-called science and then dash atheistic science, both. The mother of modern secularism was the totalitarian medieval Christian church. Secularism had its inception as a rising protest against the almost complete domination of Western civilization by the institutionalized Christian church. At the time of this revelation, the prevailing intellectual and philosophical climate of both European and American life is decidedly secular humanistic. For 300 years, Western thinking has been progressively secularized. Religion has become more and more a nominal influence, largely a ritualistic exercise. The majority of professed Christians of Western civilization are, unwittingly, actual secularists. It required a great power, a mighty influence, to free the thinking and living of the Western peoples from the withering grasp of a totalitarian ecclesiastical domination. Secularism did break the bonds of church control, and now in turn it threatens to establish a new and godless type of mastery over the hearts and minds of modern men. The tyrannical and dictatorial political state is the direct offspring of scientific materialism and philosophic secularism. Secularism no sooner frees man from the domination of the institutionalized church than it sells him into slavish bondage to the totalitarian state. And this is what we see happening all around us. The condition, sorry, the condition that is in which this population, this human race is indeed in a totalitarian state. And this totalitarian state has been built decades and decades ago already. And it's almost at its end in building its empire. Secularism frees men from ecclesiastical slavery only to betray him into here it comes, the tyranny of political and economic slavery. And this, my brothers and sisters, lovely children of God, is exactly what we see happening. And not just overnight, not just for a few days or a few weeks or a few years, no, for decades. So I repeat this piece of information because there's a lot of information in this text. The tyrannical and dictatorial political state, that is what we are in worldwide, is the direct offspring of scientific materialism. That is also what we see because everything is very based on scientific materialism. Science is being promoted as a so-called new type of religion, belief system, whatever. And philosophic secularism. Secularism no sooner frees man from the domination of the institutionalized church than it sells him into slavish bondage to the totalitarian state. And this is exactly what is happening. And this is something that not many people want to see, let alone acknowledge. But the human races were already warned for this. And to be very honest, since the movie industry came onto the stage, the human races have been pre-programmed for this time and age that we are now in. Because every movie that comes out of Hollywood, as I call it, is loaded with predictable knowledge, pre-programmed. So in each and every movie, they hide their plans, what they are about to do with the human race. And as we can see, it goes very to what is called human husbandry. And sorry, so and not only movies, also teleseries, even the music is programmed with messages that leads us into all these programs and agendas that are now being rolled out for quite some time now. So again, the tyrannical and dictatorial political state is the direct offspring of scientific materialism and philosophic secularism. Secularism no sooner frees men from the domination of the institutionalized church than it sells him into slavish bondage to the totalitarian state. Sorry for my throat problems. Secularism frees men from ecclesiastical slavery only to betray him into the tyranny of political and economic slavery. And this is exactly what they are pushing the human race into. They do now everything to bring the human race entirely into this universal basic income system, which is a system that imprisons the people to be obedient to this sociopathic, psychopathic, and malignant, narcissistic people at the top who call themselves political leaders. And that is not a good thing. Materialism denies God. And this is exactly what we see, because we see a decline of spirituality, and we see that spirituality is no longer taking a huge place in people's life. And that is exactly what these sociopathic, malignant, narcissistic, and psychopathic people at the top do not want us to be in anymore. They don't want us to be in connection with God, with spirituality. They are leading the humans away from their unique humanness, with their unique abilities of creating art, music, philosophy, and so on. Secularism simply ignores him. At least that was the earlier attitude. More recently, secularism has assumed a more militant attitude, assuming to take the place of the religion whose totalitarian bondage it one time resisted. 20th century secularism tends to affirm that man does not need God. And where does this idea come from, that we all of a sudden do not need God anymore? Better said, where is this idea coming that is living in those people whom are calling themselves political leaders, and who are trying to do their uttermost best to convince us, the rest, that God doesn't exist, that God has no place in our lives, and that God should not be part of our life? Well, the foundation of this attitude and this mindset is in actuality stemming from Lucifer. Lucifer convinced the humans, and especially the human leaders of that time and age, that God didn't exist. So why bother on a being named God, which is spirit? So why bother? And Lucifer came with the idea, and in actuality, he entrapped those in power in this mindset of, you know what, you humans know exactly how to live life, so start to live your life. Well, as we can see around us, then we must come to the conclusion that humans are not so well in living their own lives. So we need, in a certain way, a guiding hand, and we need spirituality in our life. We need the guidance of the creator and source of the living light and life, from whom we all came. I continue, but mark you well, do not be quick to surrender. The beneficent gains of the secular revolt from ecclesiastical totalitarianism. Western civilization today enjoys many liberties and satisfactions as a result of the secular revolt. So we can say that secular totalitarianism, its roots are stemming from the time and age of Lucifer. Rebellion. The great mistake of secularism was this: in revolting against the almost total control of life by religious authority, And now we go to, if people do not wake up on time, we are heading for a total control by technocracy, authority. Yeah. And after attaining the liberation from such ecclesiastical tyranny, the secularist went on to institute a revolt against God himself. And this is what we see, people. Everything that you see unfold, all these agendas, all these plans, all these so-called green agendas, whom are all based on a lie, are agendas whom have been created um, merely to revolt against God. So if you participate in these plans, in these green agendas, you in actuality should think about what you are doing, because in actuality you are revolting against God. Because all these green, so-called green agendas are completely based on total destruction of everything that God has created, inclusive the human space, the human races themselves. Sometimes tacitly and sometimes openly. To the secularistic revolt, you owe the amazing creativity of American industrialism and the unprecedented material progress of Western civilization. And because the secularistic revolt went too far and lost sight of God and true religion, which is the living religion of Jesus. And the living religion of Jesus is the religion in which each one of us creates this living relationship between us and God himself. And through this living relationship, we experience the things that are coming forth from this living relationship between us and God. There are also there also followed the unlooked for harvest of world wars and international unsettledness. It is not necessary to sacrifice faith in a God in order to enjoy the blessings of the modern secularistic revolt. Tolerance, social service, democratic government, and civil liberties. It was not necessary for the secularists to antagonize true religion in order to promote science and to advance education. But secularism is not the sole parent of all these recent gains in the enlargement of living. Behind the gains of the 20th century are not only science and secularism, but also the unrecognized and unacknowledged spiritual workings of the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Without God, without religion, scientific secularism can never coordinate its forces, harmonize its divergent and rivalrous interests, races, and nationalisms. This secularistic human society, notwithstanding its unparalleled materialistic achievement, is slowly disintegrating. The chief cohesive force resisting this disintegration of antagonism is nationalism. So again, the chief cohesive force resisting this disintegration of antagonism is nationalism. And nationalism is the chief barrier to world peace. The inherent weakness of secularism is that it discards ethics and religion for politics and power. And that is exactly what we see. Ethics and religion are more and more pushed out of the window. And religion, as it is, and as we know it, is a human-created religion and based upon manipulation and total control of the masses. And this human religion now becomes a tool for politics and power. You simply cannot establish the brotherhood of man while ignoring or denying the fatherhood of God. And this is eventually the end goal for all human races here on this earth, Urantia, to grow into this spiritual brotherhood based and funded on the foundation of the fatherhood of God, by acknowledging, first and foremost, that we all are children of God and as such born. And so we need to start see each other as brothers and sisters. So we need to stand next to each other and not against each other. Secular social and political optimism is an illusion. Without God, neither freedom and liberty nor property and wealth will lead to peace. So this says that if you put out the equation on God, then freedom and liberty nor property and wealth will lead to peace. So all that these political leaders are trying to establish and trying to create for themselves, foremost, shall not succeed because these political leaders are not in connection with God at all. So they will lose eventually all their wealth, they will lose their power, they will lose their property, and everything that they wanted shall collapse. Because the God aspect is not added to it. Those who call themselves political leaders are only being busy to get what they want and to make sure that they achieve what they want, so that they can live the life they want to live, and that the rest will be behind bars, in this case digital bars. They don't mind. They don't care about the rest. The complete secularization of science, education, industry, and society can lead only to disaster. This is what we see. During the first third of the 20th century, Urantians killed more human beings than were killed during the whole of the Christian dispensation up to that time. And this is only the beginning of dire harvest of materialism and secularism. Still more terrible destruction is yet to come. Wow. Still more terrible destruction is yet to come. And this book has been written in 1955. Or better said, it's been written in the years 1932 and published in 1955. So knowing that the writing of this book started in 1932, they already knew that this world would go into more terrible destruction. So let this be a warning. We need to wake up and we need to see what is truly going on and why this is going on and why this all is happening, what we now see unfold. All right, I already said that this would be a short book reading today. Tomorrow we do the last, because Christianity's problem we already have done, and the last section will be called the future. So longer book reading that will be done tomorrow. All right. I wish and hope that this short book reading, the information that you have heard, let it please sink into your minds, hearts, and soul, and ponder upon, pray about it, and ask for more clarification to God, the Spirit of Truth, and the Holy Spirit, and that they may show you deeper understanding of what has been said here. And thank you so much for being part of this live book reading. And I will close it off. And thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your day. And have a beautiful, awesome day. And please help your loving fellow brother, sister, where you can help them. All right. Thank you so much, and see you next time.